Well, a very good evening. It's the 17th day of September 23. I popped the fire on because it is damp out and about with the incessant rains once again. Not much of a weekend for a lot of people, I'm sure. But I had a absolutely wonderful trip up to Emerald Reef for the church service, and they were so delighted to see me. They were, and it was Harvest Thanksgiving, and a very kind lady said to me, "I'm having a cup of tea. Would you like some apples and stuff to take with you?" I said, "Are they cooking apples?" And she said, "Yes." I said, "Oh yes, please. I said, I could make some apple pie or apple sauce." And she said, "Well, yes, definitely. There's plenty of them." So she gave me a great big bag, and that'll keep me busy. Perhaps tomorrow afternoon I might make an apple pie. Yes, probably will. And make an apple sauce for storage. But it's a wonderful service, and there was a fatality on the road 4 weeks ago when I couldn't get to Hamilby, but there's not been any. It wasn't publicised for some reason, but no one seems to know really what happened. But they said that they spoke to a couple of bikers from overseas, and they said that they had passed not long after and were told that someone had sadly been killed on the Smogline Road. And so I don't know any more about it, I'm afraid. And if I shall keep you posted, it's so sad. I did see the chalk marks of the location the next day, but that's as far as it is. And, yes, I was so pleased to be at the Kirk service today. It was wonderful, really wonderful. And I was talking very much last night about the middle class and the crises that I'm sure they're facing. This, incidentally, burning very well in the background there is the wood that I collected back in May. And I got another couple of loads actually during the summer, and a further load last Sunday actually. I got another 3/4 of a ton. And that will be it because it's all sodden now, and it'll take till the spring to dry out, but most of it will just rot now. It's as I said, you've got to catch this kind of stuff at the right time, otherwise it just goes into, well, it won't last the winter, that's for sure. But anyway, I was thinking there as well about the middle classes and stuff, and like of a working class background. I mean, there was a lot of wealth in some respects in the family background. And my grandmother was she was always well, she was never short of money, put it that way, for some reason. I don't ever remember her struggling terribly, but she was quite frugal. I mentioned before, after the war years, most of that generation tended to err on the side of caution when it came to making any purchases, or if they could utilise something or use it again, they would. And I learned a lot from my grandmother about not throwing things out that were, that still had some purpose. And for that reason, I've been very good with recycling and probably my finances in some respects as well. I was thinking about my Belgian cousins who used to come over. I mean, I was only probably about 7 years old. Let me think about this, Annie. Well, certainly I can remember about 1970, 71. In fact, I think it was 1971 that I'm thinking of this evening, because there was a fabulous Scottish band called Middle of the Road, and they had a couple of hits. One was Solely Solely, and one was Where's Your Mama Gone? I can remember my cousin. There was actually four girls, but she'd be second oldest. The youngest wasn't born until 1974. But unfortunately, my dear uncle never got to see her growing up, and she never got to know her father because he died in the gas explosion in November 1974. As maybe mentioned before, it broke my grandmother's heart, and so it was such a busy time in that house. There's always people coming and going non-stop. It was like a hotel. All relatives from all over the place, always came to visit Granny. I always seemed to be kicking around for some reason. And I remember the introduction of my cousin that I'm talking about was she stamped in my toe. The kind of thing girls do when they're that age. She literally stamped in my toe like that for a bit of a joke, and it was fucking agony. I said, what did you do that for? And she tittered away and she had a laugh, and then I remember breaking into song, and that song was Where's Your Mama Gone? So that's how the memory kind of works in these things. It's attachment to silly little things, or perhaps a caption of music or something like that. And whilst I was thinking about this, I do remember my grandmother was a great fan of, well, it was Sunday evening, I think it was. It was, well, tea time-ish, because Granny was always invited, like myself and my brothers at that time would go up sporadically for an invitation sort of Sunday dinner. Gave my mum a bit of a rest and let her attend to my sisters and stuff. And my granny always cooked fabulous food. She really did. She really went to town. And there's always plenty of things in the oven and home baking, and everything was wonderfully tasty, I'll have to say. It was such. I remember quite clearly. It was there was a Radio 2. I think it continued for quite a long number of years, but it was called, what was it called, Annie? Oh yes, it was called Sing Something Simple. And it was always introduced at around about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. It was 4 o'clock or something. And with the Cliff Adams singers. I always remember this. And I'll play a little caption of this introduction of this program that I remember so fondly. And yes, here we are.
For the next half hour, why not sing something simple along with the Adams Singers, directed by Cliff Adams and accompanied by Jack Evans. Just join in with all these songs you love to sing. We'll sing something simple for you, something.
Yes, it was such a delightful kind of background music to the. As I remember, the kitchen was always, full of condensation. No one had extractor fans at that time, as I recall, but perhaps the middle classes did, because I'm going to talk about the middle classes. But what I'm saying is, you didn't have to be wealthy, or you didn't have to be in business, or you didn't have to be, children privately educated in public schooling, all that, to qualify to be middle class. Middle class is something that you were in your bloodline. It was part of genetic makeup. It was part of your DNA. And there was a lot of slipping around, and because of your ability to attain wealth or retain wealth. So you either to attain it or to retain it. So if you couldn't retain it, you were most likely going to slip down into the region of working class, lower working class, and perhaps if you really fucked up, into the area of being a proletariat. I know there's many people who are middle class ended up being proletariat because they didn't think straight. They couldn't work out that the money tree didn't last forever. But and there's also lots of people who aspire to be like the middle classes, and these were tended to be sort of social climber types and mixed, but never really fitted in because they didn't have the correct genetic makeup, and they stood out a mile. I remember them very clearly as I grew up, everywhere. And it was most evident in the 1970s and 1980s at my time, because I could see these people who were trying to break into a status which didn't really belong to them. Whereas Tony Blair, when I mentioned last night about social mobility, he wanted to wipe out the whole damn thing and get everybody moving in whatever direction they wanted, and some people did. But a lot of it was done through, banks throwing money at them for businesses or property. And some who were fortunate enough to buy property at the right time, got through a long period of austerity. So a long period where there was growth, not austerity. And most people who had lots of money in the 1980s, for example, they became extremely wealthy, and that's where much of the middle class basis stands at the moment. They might not do damn all there's no evidence of how they managed to acquire their wealth, but they're still wealthy. And most of that, of course, is down to the fact that they've been bequeathed large sums of money, possibly from their passing relatives or something, you see? Because they, passing relatives, had managed to step onto the property ladder at the right time, and so a rich auntie or something then passed over and was able to bequeath the property amongst the offspring as they saw fit in their will. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? But going back to my original point, I mean, it was because I was thinking about this in rather deep thought. I remember that when my Belgian cousins and my auntie, who's Flemish, and my Scottish uncle, when they came over, they drove all the way from Ostend. Well, they didn't drive across water, obviously, but they got on the ferry, didn't they? But they drove all the way from, normally from Dover, and all the way to Perthshire. And I can never recall these, any of them being at all fraught or exhausted from the journey. They were always very fresh and happy, because they all had such great mannerisms and they carried themselves so well. I mean, obviously my cousins were only about the same age as myself, but jumping about for joy. They could see Granny and they were in Scotland. They loved Scotland, and as a result, most of the names of this sort of Scottish, twist to it, if you understand. But my uncle, I remember him very well. He was a pipe smoker. I used to light up the pipe in the sitting room. I used to admire him. He was a great hill walker. So I never really had an opportunity because I was only so young myself. But if he did chat away about the mountains, I found it most fascinating. And then he handed me one time a pile of postcards that he'd written, and I still got them after all these years. I beg your pardon, it wasn't my Uncle Harry, it was my granny handed me them and said, these are the postcards that Uncle used to send us when he was away wandering in the northwest Highlands of Scotland. And at that time there was very few cars. There was just track, what do you call it, a pony and the odd bus and motor vehicle, but nothing, nothing like it is nowadays with camper vans all, nose to tail, cramming around what do you call it, the N500 route or something. Made a hash of that place, haven't they? Too many people, litter, noise and low vibrationals all around about the beautiful northwest Highlands. But I do remember this very distinct smell of the pipe tobacco, and something which I find quite incredible with your senses was the fact that we never drank coffee at Granny's because it was never there. There was never any coffee. There was a bottle of something called, maybe not so much a bottle, but more like a jar. But it was it was like a sauce bottle, HP sauce bottle, that type of shape. And it was camp coffee, and it was a treacle-like substance, and you just poured it into a cup and covered it with boiled malt, and that was your coffee. It tasted awful. It tastes a lot better than some of the shite coffee you get served up like Kenko and stuff like that crap. Or some of these brand supermarket coffees, which are disgusting. You shouldn't be allowed to call it coffee. It's disgusting. But my auntie used to bring coffee with her. And I don't remember having a coffee percolator, but it wasn't, it wasn't coffee beans, but the coffee itself was such a wonderful aroma. And the whole house was filled with this great, grand, stench of coffee and lovely pipe tobacco smell. And all the ticking clocks in the property. In fact, my sister just said to me yesterday when we were chatting on the telephone, and she said, "Do you remember Granny's house where there was all these clocks?" I says, "What, like my house?" And she says, "Yes, that's why you get it, Andy," or Andrew. She says, "But none of your clocks tick like Granny's. They're all ticking and chiming and bloody pendulum clocks and everything there was clocks everywhere." And I suppose I'd remember that vividly too, because they all had a different chime. There was a Westminster clock, and there was an old clock that was left by, it would have been in the bloodline, it would have been one of my, suppose you'd call it great auntie. And she disappeared to, she went to California, didn't she? And the only thing she left was a white-faced pendulum clock. I think it was worth a lot of money. But it used to sit above the budgie cage. It used to sit. Why am I talking about this anyway? But anyway, Why have I drifted into this? Oh yes, because what I'm trying to say is that they were extremely wealthy. My cousins and my uncle and stuff. I mean, they worked hard, but they didn't have middle class status in Belgium because there was no such thing. The middle class, there's no such thing as the only place you find any class system is in the United Kingdom, Great Britain. So you can go anywhere in the world and you won't find that same level of class system. You do get it, of course. You do get it in India and stuff like that, and some of the tribal areas of Africa and stuff. But it's not such a cutting weight. Anywhere the British have been in power, you will find that there's a class system. That's probably the easiest way to put it. Anywhere in the Commonwealth, the British Empire. But the class system that it has existed for perhaps let's go back to Waldeney times, or maybe even back to Victoria times. But it's slowly being eroded. And what I was trying to say yesterday evening was, I don't want this system to be eroded to the point that people are not identifiable by their mannerisms or the cars they drive, or the schools the children attend to, or the sports they play, or even down to what they have for lunch. Yeah, I mean, there's not many people in the working class who will sit down for sorbet for the dinner. But often that would happen in a middle class household. Well, maybe not so much, for eating an evening meal, but certainly if they're in restaurants and stuff, they would definitely be ordering sorbet. But, I think that the problem that we have is that I know that the aristocracy made a formal complaint to Camelot. I think they all clubbed together sometime back in the late 1990s or early 20s, and they said that it was ridiculous that anyone could become a millionaire overnight, and taking away a lot of the prestige of people who had worked hard all their life, or indeed the aristocracy who had, the landed gentry. So Camelot took them, seriously, and eventually what they did was they decided that it was becoming too easy for people to become millionaires, so they decided to, instead of 49 numbers, I think it was, or whatever the hell it was, or 40 numbers, they decided to make it 59 bloody numbers. It means it's almost damn impossible to win the damn thing. And as I've said before, it's absolutely impossible to win the lottery or the national lottery, whatever you call it now, lotto or something, because they have built-in algorithms, I'm sure, in order to not have any winners. And the fact that there's never any winners announced makes it all the more clear, in my mind at least, in my opinion, that there is no winners, because no one ever bloody wins it. It's just all a scam. And until the day Camelot shake up the ideas and start publishing the names and addresses of the winners, or at least giving them, some sort of problems with a photograph or something, and say this is Mr. and Mrs. Jones from Essex or something, it's just won fucking £10 million. Well, they need to be doing that to try and, get some public confidence back into the whole lotto game. That's my opinion. I don't believe anyone's won Euro Millions at all. I think it's a scam. I've drifted off point again. I normally do this, don't I? But what I'm saying is that aristocracy was so upset with this. Well, in a way, I find that the middle classes would probably be quite upset too. That, I mean, there's one thing you'll find in most middle class houses back in the 1970s and 80s. Well, I mean, they were the pioneers of Tupperware parties and plastic containers in the kitchen, and special containers to keep your, cereal in. That was not something that the working class or the proletariats ever did. I mean, I don't remember having any special containers from Sugar Puffs or, Rice Krispies. In fact, that's another pointer, because Rice Krispies, I think that was for the working class, but Special K, Kellogg's Special K was for the middle classes. And it was another ruse that if you walked into the shop and you said, a box of Special K, please, they would immediately think, oh, he must be quite wealthy. He's middle class. If he bought Shreddies or something, or damn Weetabix, would turn another cheek. But the middle classes then started to get upset, and I'm talking now. I'm not talking the 70s anymore, or the 80s, or the 90s, or the 20s. We're now in the damn worst decade I've ever lived in, I think, politically at least, and around the world. But certainly, it's in the last 23 years, it's gone downhill quite quickly for most people, at least, and particularly for the middle classes. But what I'm saying, and what I'm trying to make the point about, is you get stores like this bloody B&M who have now reduced the prices on many of the kitchen gadgets that the working classes never had before. You could never locate a blender. You went into someone's house in the late 1970s and said, could I borrow your blender, please? What? I'm making some queen cakes, and I want to mix up things. I want to short of your blender. I don't bloody have a blender. I don't know what you're talking about. But in casserole dishes, I don't really remember anyone having a casserole dish either. That's a middle class thing too. And slow cookers. I mean, these are all middle class gadgets. Most working class people had a pot and they stuck it in the cooker. They had a casserole dish. I don't remember having any casserole. In fact, we never had casserole, we had stew. I've never had my mother refer to, what's for tea, Mum? Just wait and see, Andrew. I never said so. Let's hope it's casserole then. She said, what are you talking about? You've been mixing with the middle classes again, Andrew. Yeah, but I think that B&M, I mean, it's a dreadful place, but I do pop in now and again because there are sometimes a bargain. But when I look at this stuff, and I think to myself, what's the point of this? Really, I mean, these are not labour-saving gadgets at all, because most of these gadgets, the time you get them out of the bloody cupboard, you could have had the job done in the first place. And that goes for the middle-class gadgets of the 70s too. By the time you bloody get out the colander, you could have had the potatoes drained in the sink just by upturning the pot and holding the saucepan lid against it. If you're careful, that is, not an imbecile. But I just find that everything's gone so haywire. And I haven't had any sleepless nights about the middle class, don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to fear for them a little. I don't want to see them, dressing poorly. I don't want to see them taking shortcuts, even with hairstyles and stuff. A rather gallant looking, hairstyle that the middle class is normally kept, but now that just seems to be all flat-headed and, it just seems to sit there, tied up in a bloody mess. Makeup is like it's... the middle class is going to that bloody store in Bethel, what was it called, McEwen's or something like that. And they wouldn't go to the bloody cheap paint shop, what do you call it, Boots? Or what do you call the other stuff, that's Superdrug or something, and get something that's chemically fucking created to stick in your face. They would go into and buy Estee Lauders and stuff like that, and Lancome and Chanel products and stuff, and take time and chat away with assistants at the makeup desk and say, I like this rouge and I like this eyeshadow. It's very nice, isn't it? Ooh, I think you should opt for this one a little bit. You think so? Oh yeah. But what I'm trying to say is what I'm trying to say here is that, you don't even have these stores anymore. They've all closed down because the middle class has started to worry. I said, well, look, what's it going to be? Are we going to get the BMW X5, or are we going to piss about in McEwen's all day buying tittle-tattle and things that people don't see apart from my Laura Ashley dress every time I go to pick up the children? Well, we'll make a decision. We can't not go on holiday. We need to go to Lillehammer for skiing, and we need to do a summer break, and we need to do this. And we definitely need to do autumn break. Well, let's get rid of McEwen's. We'll not shop there anymore, and let's stop going to John Lewis. Yes, we don't need these what do you call these, La Crusoe? Is it La Crusoe? Pots and pans. What the hell? I remember one time looking at it online, I thought, who the hell's going to pay £160 for a bloody frying pan? Well, somebody must, because it was John Lewis, and people must pay that. I know that qualities. I love quality myself. I bought a kettle from John Lewis. I never used the damn thing because it's, well, I'll show you the kettle one day. It's wonderful. I bought it especially for what I was using in my Aga cooker, which I've not got yet, because there's no bloody gas in the village, is there? But, anyway, I don't want to mumble too much this evening and make the vlog too long, but what I'm trying to, build in your mind is you're really going to have to start thinking about some ways of salvaging the traditions of the middle classes, because it's all going to slip away, and we're not going to be able to, meet and have a jolly in the chats with the middle class people anymore. And I think it'd be very sad, actually, and yes, I think it's going to be terribly sad, to be honest, because the last thing they got really is the very last thing they have is their Volvos and the Audis and the BMWs, hatchbacks, 4x4s, and the damn government wants to take them away from them and give them electric cars instead. Although in saying that, on the other side of the coin, it's the damn middle classes have created this a little bit as well, because, I mean, the working class and the proletariat can't afford electric cars anyway, so who the hell's buying them? The aristocracy won't, because aristocracy never buy anything new. They'd rather go about in an old clapped out banger. So it must be the middle classes who are going buying into this bloody nonsense and quite happy to part with them good money for oules, cameras, and give up on the Argos for electric cooker or solar panel fucking roofed and Jesus, what else? That sort of solar, no, it's a kind of heat pump or something that they fucking stick outside your house and makes such a noise that none of the neighbours can sleep because it's so fucking loud. And it only ever works when it's, a certain temperature. If it goes below -5, the whole house fucking falls apart because there's no heat. Yes. There's an awful lot of things I want to talk about, but unfortunately these vlogs can't be, over 30 minutes. It's just too long for most people to listen to.
This has been Sing Something Simple, a collection of favourite songs sung by the Adams Singers, directed by Cliff Adams, and accompanied by Jack Embler. Sing Something Simple is produced by John Browell.
We'll sing something simple for you, something